You think the mistake was drinking too much, or eating too much, or whatever the specific thing was that you finally, after everything, managed to put down. Well, it wasn't. It's never been the behavior. Not once, not for you, not for anyone who's ever gone through this cycle. And here's how you can tell. 6 months after most people quit, they usually picked up something else. Something that on the surface doesn't even look like a problem, which means whatever the real mistake was, it happened long before the relapse. And exactly how you tried to fix it in the first place. Today, I'm walking you through the 7 mistakes that make that outcome almost guaranteed. Not as an abstract list, but in the exact order they usually happen, one leading straight into the next. And by the end, you will see the fork that's been hiding inside all 7 of them the whole time. You can spend years getting very good at managing a new version of the same problem, or you can catch it here before the swap even happens and deal with the one thing that's actually underneath it. Hi, my name is Mina, and I've spent the last 5 years studying exactly this, not from behind a desk, but because I lived through most of these 7 mistakes myself. More than what's embarrassing. Before I understood what was actually happening, I tried religion, I tried science based courses, I tried 12 steps, meetings, I tried all the new philosophical traditions, whatever was supposed to have the answer that particular year. Each one helped a little, but none of them fixed it until I found the actual root. And once I did, I started noticing the same 7 mistakes in almost every person I've worked with since. Mistake number one is believing the specific behavior is the problem. Not the drinking, not the scrolling, not the spending, not the drugs, not whatever your particular flavor of this happens to be. That's not actually what you're dealing with, it's just a symptom. Think of it like a sneeze. You can suppress a sneeze, medicate it, hold it in, distract yourself right through it. But if there's a flu underneath, none of that touches the flu. It just means the flu finds a different way out. A cough, a fever, a chest congestion, or something else. Here's why this matters so much as mistake number one. Every other mistake on this list only exists because of this one. Misdiagnose the problem here at the very start, and every strategy you build afterward is built on the wrong foundation. No matter how disciplined, how well researched, how well intentioned it is. Mistake number two follows almost automatically from mistake number one, trying to fix it with sheer willpower, with nothing lined up to actually fill the space it leaves behind. This is the natural next move once you've decided, even unconsciously, that the behavior itself is the problem. If the behavior is the problem, the solution seems obvious. Stop the behavior, force it, white knuckle it. And to be fair, this genuinely works, but for a while. Which is exactly what makes it so convincing. But you've built nothing to occupy the space that behavior used to fill. You have removed the symptom and left the underlying pressure with nowhere to go. And pressure with nowhere to go doesn't disappear, it finds an exit. You'll probably recognize this feeling yourself, that particular dread, that hopelessness, the confusion of watching your own willpower work for a while and then quietly give out again. Every time it happened to me, I read it as evidence, proof that something was fundamentally wrong with me, that I simply wasn't strong enough. And that read of the situation didn't stay contained to the addiction itself. It bled into everything. How I saw myself, how I carried myself, the entire foundation of my identity. Mistake number three is a little more hidden, and it's specific to exactly the kind of person watching this video. Believing your willpower is unlimited because it's worked everywhere else in your life. You have built a successful career on it, maybe an athletic, fit body, a reputation, a business on sheer discipline. Showing up, doing the hard thing when the easy thing was right there. So the assumption, logically, when it comes to this, I'll just apply the same tool. It's worked on everything else. Why not here too? Here's what that assumption misses. Willpower isn't a separate tank for each part of your life. It's one shared depletable reserve. Every ounce you spend white knuckling this particular urge is coming out of the exact same well that's holding up your focus at work, your patience with the people you love, your energy at the end of a long day. So this isn't just failing quietly. It's costing you everywhere else too. While you keep insisting it's working because you can't yet see where the bill is actually being paid. Mistake number four is where the swap actually happens. Picking up a replacement that looks cleaner, healthier, more acceptable, or just less risky. Without noticing, it is the exact same mechanism wearing a new costume. Drinking becomes overworking. Gambling becomes obsessive exercise. Smoking becomes a porn addiction. Whatever the first one was becomes control or achievement or some version of busy that everyone around you actually praises you for. And that's precisely the trap. Nobody stages an introversion for someone who works 80-hour weeks or who's suddenly impressively disciplined about the gym. The new version gets applause instead of concern, or sometimes just never get noticed at all, which is exactly why it can run for years without anyone, including you, ever questioning it. I've sat across from more people than I can count, and they describe this exact swap. What stays with me every time isn't the story itself, it's what crosses their face, what I hear underneath their voice. Real fear, real helplessness. And they realize just how powerless they have been over their own lives. This really pains me. They don't have a clue why this keeps happening, how to stop it, or whether there's any way out of what genuinely feels like a cycle of slavery. Quick pause here. If this is already resonating, there's a link below to our newsletter where I go deeper into this exact pattern regularly. No strings attached, just more if you want it. And if someone in your life comes to mind while you're watching this who could benefit from it, send it to them directly often does more than any algorithm ever could. Now, here's why almost nobody catches mistake 4 while it's happening. Mistake number 5 is the reason mistake 4 gets to happen without you noticing. Trusting the false confidence that comes from having beaten the first addiction. You did the hard thing once. You stopped. That's real and it should count for something, but it also quietly convinces you that you understand this problem now. That you're basically safe. That whatever comes next, you'll obviously catch it because you caught the last one. That confidence is exactly what lowers your guard at the one moment you should be watching closest. My friend, you're not more protected after quitting the first thing. In some ways, you're more exposed. Because now you have proof, or what feels like proof, that you don't need to look too hard at whatever comes next. Mistake number 6 is, in my experience, the one that catches people the longest without them ever realizing it. Waiting for a rock bottom moment that never actually comes. Here's the question worth sitting with for a second. What would that even look like for you? With the first addiction, maybe there was one, a health scare, a relationship on the line, something visibly falling apart. But the replacement rarely announces itself that way. It has fewer visible consequences. Nothing collapses. Nobody stages that intervention we just talked about. Nothing forces urgency because from the outside, nothing looks broken. So you wait. You tell yourself you'll deal with it once it gets bad enough to actually deal with it. But at least I wasn't bad as I used to be isn't an actual diagnosis. It's the exact thing keeping you from getting well. But, my friend, the psychological harm is there. And it's real, very real. There's no lasting peace in it, no real happiness, no contentment, and over time, stability and well being start to feel like they're not an option. From what I've seen in my own life and in the people I've worked with, waiting for that rock bottom moment causes more harm than trying to solve the problem and failing ever would. It hands you an illusory excuse to keep going, to put off looking for a way out, and it delays even the temporary relief you could have had along the way. And here's the deeper reason it doesn't work. For most people, that big, shocking, devastating moment simply never comes. Instead, while you're waiting for something dramatic enough to wake you up, you end up doing more damage than any single devastating event ever could. Just slowly, a little at a time, over months instead of overnight. There's no shock to snap you out of it because nothing ever arrives sharply enough to shock you in the first place. And now, mistake number 7, the one that closes the loop back to where we started. It is declaring victory at 30, 60, 90 days without ever asking why the cycle started in the first place. You hit the milestone, you feel it generally, the relief, the pride, maybe even other people noticing and tell you how proud they are. All of that is real. But if you've never actually answered the question, sitting underneath mistake number 1, what was this behavior a symptom of to begin with? Then the win you're celebrating isn't structural. It's a custom change, and custom changes, by definition, come with the next custom. My friend, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but more often than not, the relapse is coming, sooner or later, wearing either its familiar mask or a brand new one. I'm not saying that to be a pessimist, it's simply because the underlying reason you needed the addiction in the first place was never actually resolved. Now, let's lay all 7 side by side for a second because said quickly like this, the pattern becomes hard to miss. You misdiagnose the behavior as the problem. You try to force it with willpower alone. You assume that willpower is unlimited because it's worked everywhere else. You swap it for something that looks cleaner or just less risky. You trust the false confidence that comes with having beaten the first one. You wait for a rock bottom that never comes. And you declare victory before ever asking why any of that started. 7 mistakes, 1 underlying cause. So, if none of these 7 are really about willpower, or about which specific behavior you happen to be fighting, what is actually underneath all of it? Here is the honest answer, and it's simpler than you'd expect, even if living it out isn't. There are 2 fundamentally different ways of operating in the world. I call the first one reactive living, and it is the water almost all of us swim in without ever noticing it's there. Reactive living means your sense of being okay, your peace, your baseline feeling that things are fine, depends entirely on conditions outside your control. Conditions like whether the day went well, whether people approved of you, whether the numbers were good, the relationship was smooth, the body cooperated and was healthy. When those conditions line up, you feel fine. When they don't, something in you needs relief. And that need for relief is where every addictive or compulsive behavior actually comes from. Not from the drink, not from the screen, not from temptations, not from chemistry or biology, but from a mode of living that has made your entire sense of okayness conditional on things you don't actually control. Here's what makes this hard to see in someone like you watching this video. You have gotten remarkably good at controlling the conditions. That's exactly why you're high functioning. Career, health, relationships, you've engineered enough of the external conditions to feel okay most of the time. But most of the time always has an edge, a place where the conditions slip out of your grip. And whatever you reach for at that edge isn't a separate problem from your success. It's the exact same reactive mode that built the success, just running out of a runway. And even, my friend, when you succeed at managing every condition you care about, believe me, it doesn't buy you contentment or peace. It buys you a life of constant fear and anxiety, worry. Fear so constant you stop being able to see it because it's woven into everything you think and do. The alternative is what I call active living. And I want to be precise about what that word does and doesn't mean because it's easy to misunderstand. Active doesn't mean busier, more driven, more optimized. It means your sense of being content no longer depends on external conditions at all. You still pursue things, you still care about how they turn out. You just no longer privately, silently, beating your peace on them landing a certain way. This is really the thread running through every one of the 7 mistakes we just walked through. Willpower can suppress the behavior, it can't touch the underlying reactive mode, generating the need for it in the first place. That's why the behavior swaps instead of disappearing. That's why the confidence is false. That's why the rock bottom never comes and the victory never holds. All seven mistakes are just different shapes of the same error, trying to manage a reactive way of living instead of actually shifting out of it. And believe you me, that shift is real and possible. It's not a single decision or one good week, it's gradual, learnable change in how you operate day to day until the conditions stop having that kind of grip on you. Not more willpower, not a better replacement behavior, a different foundation entirely. Free at last. If you recognize yourself somewhere in these seven, and if you're honest with yourself, it's usually more than one. There's a link below to our newsletter where this gets explored in a lot more depth. And if you already have a sense that you want more structured one on one help working through it, there's also a link to a consultation form so we can talk about whether this program is the right fit for you. No pressure, just an option in case you already know you're ready. And if this video helped you put a name to a pattern you have been living inside of without one, please consider subscribing. This channel is still small and it genuinely helps more people to find it. I'd also love to know which of these seven hit closest to home for you. Drop it in the comments below. I read everyone. I'm very excited to read them. I'll leave you with this. In case any of what we covered today feels like a lot to carry all at once, your only responsibility right now is to do the best, highest option that's actually doable for you in this moment. Nothing more than that. Thank you so much, and salut!